Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Friend Wrap. I'm your host, Nicholas Lorimer, today joined by Sara. Just a housekeeping note before we begin. This will be the last regular episode of the show for the year. There will be two specials coming this year on Thursday and Friday, one done by Sara on free speech issues in the UK, and one done by me, which is an interview with Paul Hoffman on a new anti-corruption Chapter 9 institution. All right, let's get into the first news story of today. And that is that President Ramaphosa has shown his normal inability to make any kind of hard decision. The Justice Minister, Thembi Semelane, has been under a lot of pressure after it was revealed by media investigations that she had received a dodgy payment that she describes as a loan from a business connected to the VBS bank. The scandals only continue to get worse, and her defenses of herself don't seem to have been particularly effective, which makes it even more awkward because she is the Justice Minister, or at least she was until last night when Ramaphosa suddenly announced that he was moving her out of the Justice portfolio and into the Human Settlements Ministry, basically swapping the two with Mamoloko Kubai becoming the new Minister of Justice. Sara, it really strikes me as just, it was obvious that with such a huge cloud hanging over her head, she could not remain as a Justice Minister. But then to just be moved into a different ministry, I mean, it kind of makes a mockery of the whole idea of accountability. What do you make of this?
Well, just in case we thought that our president was showing some fortitude in his decision-making, I think the word spinelessness comes to mind. I mean, that he should think that she doesn't have the level of integrity and probity necessary to be the Justice Minister. Surely no one should be a minister of any kind if they lack integrity, probity, and honesty. And moving her to housing and development, or whatever it's called, settlement.
Human settlement.
I mean, really? I mean, for once, I mean, it's not that he can stand for election again. For once, if somebody's presumably not just found to have done wrong, but is probably a little on the expendable side, she's. I mean, frankly, I don't know to what extent she's a mover and shaker that she should have got into cabinet in the first place, other than being the none too distinguished former mayor of Polokwane. But if he found that she was warranted sanction, she should have been fired. Now, the ANC government has a lot of form in this, in that it's a very common practice that how you deal with poor performers or dishonesty, etc., in government at all levels, is to shift people sideways rather than go through the tough process of actually dealing with the emotions that go with firing somebody. But he should try it sometime. He might find it quite liberating.
No, spineless is definitely the right word there. It's just fire her. It's not hard. You're the president. You're the most popular politician in the country still, despite his big loss in popularity. He continues to be the most popular politician in the country.
He brought her in. He can take her out. I don't see the problem.
Exactly. And if the ANC is really going to go after you for that, then you don't have any hope of doing anything useful anyway. If you're Cyril. But anyway, let's move on to our next story. This is from the Gauteng High Court, rather, which has found that the city manager, that is the top bureaucrat in the city of Johannesburg, Floyd Brink, must vacate his office within 10 days, as his appointment last year was irregular. This is following a court case that was brought to the court in May last year by the DA, who said that Floyd Brink was appointed by a council vote irregularly. Procedures had not been followed. Eventually, this went to court. It was found that he had been appointed irregularly. It was appealed, and now the High Court has ruled that it is in fact an irregular appointment. It says that he must resign within 10 days, and an acting city manager appointed. He can leave sooner if a city manager is appointed before the 10 days are up. The city also has to pay the legal costs. So pretty damning attack there. Brink has been appointed as city manager. He's been city manager for a while, but he has a cloud hanging over his head from procurement processes in acquiring equipment worth 320 million rand that have raised some questions. He was placed on special leave in April 2022, but then rehired as acting city manager later that year, showing the sort of way that the city of Joburg just fails to kind of deal with corrupt officials. City manager is the most important official in a city. And so I think it's quite warranted to hear the statement from the leader of the DA in Joburg, who said that Johannesburg is finally rid of Floyd Brink, someone who presided over large-scale devastation and previously unknown levels of service delivery collapse. Sara, what do you make of this?
Well, as I recall, we had the possibility, and I forget just offhand his name, we had the possibility of having a city manager.
Johan Metler, I believe.
Metler, and the city manager of Pretoria. Highly recommended, very well spoken of. But no, as soon as we had the ANC, EFF, and whoever else coalition back in power, we got Brink. And, he came in with us good citizens knowing kind of what we were getting, but it turned out to be as bad, if not worse, than we expected. So it's kind of business as usual in Joburg, and it very much reflects the what happens, particularly when an ANC EFF aligned coalition tries to run the richest city in Africa. We're becoming a shadow of our former selves. So this is not a surprise, but it is certainly, as I say, it's business as usual, and that's pretty grubby business.
No, definitely. With any hope, if the ANC is serious about trying to maintain its position in Johannesburg, I think it's very important for them to seriously consider who they appoint as the next city manager, as that will be the person who leads the city into the next, or leads the city's bureaucracy in the lead up to the next local government elections, which will be crucial for the political future of Johannesburg. All right. I live. Hope springs eternal. That's all I can say. Let's move overseas to one of the most bizarre stories I think I've seen in foreign politics in a while. South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol has had a troubled presidency. He was elected in 2022. He only very narrowly won that election by, I think it was about 1 percentage point over his left-leaning opponent. And his entire presidency has been kind of dogged by scandal and accusations that he's been having, that there are improper relationships between various businesses. And I think his wife has also been accused of benefiting from the state. The opposition, which controls the legislature in that country, has been seeking to impeach various prosecutors around him who they accuse of not properly looking into his issues. And it's against this backdrop that something very strange happened. The president, at about 11:15 at night, declared suddenly that the country was under attack from the opposition parties who were in collaboration with North Korea. He declared martial law banning all political activities, all strikes, all sort of all free speech, basically. All media needed to be placed under control, and that the army would be basically enforcing the law on the streets. This shocked a lot of Koreans, who in the middle of the night rushed to the parliament building, including many opposition lawmakers, where they found that police and army were preventing them from getting into the building. However, the police and army seemed sort of a little bit unsure of what exactly to do with themselves. They were not really able to control the crowd, and the crowd basically lifted the opposition lawmakers over the wall so that they could get into the parliament, make quorum, had the speaker declare a sitting, and then voted to end the martial law, the state of martial law, which is allowed in the Korean constitution. Then there was a sort of awkward couple of hours where this crowd basically chased the military around the parliament. Eventually, they just left. And after a lot of assurances by the military that no, martial law is still in effect until the president says it's over, at about 4:00 in the morning, the president issued an end to the martial law, meaning that it didn't even last 6 hours. It basically seems as though the president attempted to perform a coup attempt to protect his control over the country. He's now facing impeachment procedures, as one would imagine, and he was condemned not just by the opposition, but also by his own political party, who said that the declaration of martial law was wrong and that they would stand with the people. Sara, it's kind of a reminder, I guess, that democracy is a sort of a bit of a fragile thing. In this case, it very much held up, but only because people went out to defend it.
Well, I mean, what I love about the story is essentially it's January 6th made in Korea, or January the 6th a la K-pop or whatever. It sort of puts a seal on any attempts to think that, possibly democracy, which has taken root in South Korea and been unbelievably beneficial to it economically, significantly. I suppose I am relieved that not only the attempt was thwarted, so the nearly 40 years of democracy sort of stood firm, but that the real reason for it was personal and grubby and dishonest and, corrupt. And there were no sudden ideals of reverting to a totalitarian state. It was actually just to protect his arse. And I think that makes a great end of year, ridiculous attempted coup. I liked when we were chatting earlier, the fact that we're essentially describing the sort of people who were pushing the army out of the way as old men and women and women sort of, go away, you're getting in the way of democracy.
Shouting, "You're ashamed. Yeah, you should be ashamed of yourselves." And these sort of masked soldiers were holding guns. I recommend you go out online and have a look for the videos of this. Kind of literally just being shoved around by angry people and then looking kind of awkward because they don't really know what to do in response to this. At one point, I believe special...
Essentially, they're like the kids who've been told off by their parents. Wonderful.
Yes. At one point, sort of special forces soldiers tried to storm the parliament to stop the vote going ahead, and then it went ahead anyway, and they just sort of left. So, proof, I suspect, that South Korea's democracy is perhaps more robust than anyone thought. But just one of the most bizarre political stories I think I've ever seen. But anyway,
I hope they will win out.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think I think there's got to be a real reckoning in Korea after this. I think everyone involved needs to seriously be in trouble for it, because it just seems like utter madness that anyone thought that this could even be a possibility. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the show, not just today, but over the whole course of the year. Like I said, there will be those 2 special episodes coming out tomorrow and on Friday. And I hope you all have a wonderful end of year break, and we will see you all in January. Cheers, everyone, and have a wonderful new year. The Daily Friend Show and The Daily Friend are a project of the Institute of Race Relations, the IRR. The IRR is a think tank which was founded in 1929 to study race relations in South Africa and works to change government policy to improve race relations through non-racialism and to ensure the prosperity of all South Africans. If you like our work and would like to support us, please go to irr.org.za and click Support the IRR. Or you can go to thedailyfriend.co.za and click the Fund Us button.